Welcome to episode 23 of Shooting Womp Rats. I'm Daniel.
I'm Don.
My ever-stalwart co-host, bringing you yet once again from an undisclosed location.
Deep in the bunker.
What we can for Star Wars D6. And now for the news. Don,
awesome.
How about it?
Wow. Hush you! Well, this week I had some interesting stuff, like the Adventure Seed Monday. This week's Adventure Seed is to ambush an enemy convoy. The terrain involved is going to be urban, and the complication is that things are not what they seem. And unique about this adventure is the opposition. The opposition is going to be hereto unknown aliens, or species from the Star Wars universe. Not meaning that it has to be extra universal or anything like that, but just one that hasn't had a lot of screen time or background or anything like that. Think Ewoks before Return of the Jedi. Those could have been unknown aliens. Character Tuesday is Huda the Hutt, an up-and-coming crime boss with aspirations that include making inroads to the Wheel's lucrative gambling. Rumor Wednesday, the worlds of the Napes cluster are hiring mercenaries in preparation of an invasion of a neighboring area of space home to its longtime rivals and enemies. Think England and France. There you go.
Oh ho ho!
Oh ho! Oh, your mother smells like elderberries, your father smells like a hamster. That sort of thing. Planet of the week is Agos, a terrestrial moon in a solar system with many larger planets and a wealth of moons. I believe that one gas giant has something like 47 moons on it. The thing about Agos is it has a light gravity, breathable atmosphere, and large oceans. It should be a beautiful place. Unfortunately, at some time in the past, it has suffered a cataclysm, causing a near collapse of its society. This gives rise to a militaristic government. It has nearly non-existent starboard resources, but it is well known for its information resources. The new generation seem accepting of this new order of things, the military. The older generation continues to chafe under that military rule. So I think that planet this week has got a lot of legs. So Daniel, what do you got?
This week's character of the week for me is Poggle the Lesser. He was the leader of the Geonosians during the Clone Wars.
Bug people.
Right, the bug people. And you would notice him from the movies as the guy who walked around with the cane.
Made out of a bone, if I remember correctly.
The interesting thing about Poggle was that Geonosians have a caste system. He jumped from his caste, which was the lesser. The lesser part of his name stands for his caste. He was part of the lesser caste, which was workers. He went from his caste and started a rebellion against the current leader at the time. It wasn't going in his favor at first, and then Sidious started funneling him funds and weapons in exchange for him swearing loyalty to him. As such, Poggle eventually overthrew and killed that leader and became it's not administrator, it's Archduke or something like that, I believe it's called. But he became the political leader of the Geonosians. This was one I ended up having to stat out manually. I used the D6 Holocron's stats for an average Geonosian aristocrat. I just took skills, because they only list attributes. I took skills and put them in and statted the skills that way. Made for an interesting character.
Yes, the Geonosian People's Liberation. Yeah, that's what he headed up. Socialism in the Star Wars universe. Never happened. That's pretty much all I've got this week, Daniel. What do you think about the all-you-can-eat rental buffet, baby?
I am keeping a very close eye on those dewback livers.
Ooh, yuck. Are you talking about the stuff that's got the Akmar bacon wrap on it? Oh. That stuff's nasty.
So,
hey, go ahead. I don't want to monopolize things. Okay, yes I do, but I'm not going to. Go ahead.
You're monopolizing anyway. Don has created a cover mechanic for those people willing to accept a bullet for their friends.
Yes, lovingly known as the meat shield rule. Basically what happens is the rule mechanic comes in two varieties. The first one is it's an undeclared action. It's something you can do during your turn. So, for example, a player who ends their movement between an attacker using a ranged weapon and its target may declare that he is offering to cover with his body. And what this does, this gives a cover modifier to the person behind him. Typically half cover if the target's the same size, 1/4 if the target is larger, 3/4 cover if the target is smaller. Depending upon what it is, it's a 1D, 2D, 4D. But anyhow, you roll the cover modifier and add it to the range difficulty like you would from the book. Now, if the skill check is equal to or greater than the range difficulty but less than the cover modifier, the meat shield takes the hit. The roll equals or exceeds the cover modifier, then the target is hit per normal. This is just regular cover rules. That cover is only available so long as the character is able to intercede between the attackers and the target. That's going to be up to the game master. The character can use up any remaining actions for this action or have the action be an extra action accepting the -1D map. This is also considered a move action, and the player may not dodge for the rest of the round because he's trying to intercede and take the hit. So you can't take the hit and then take a dodge. It just doesn't make sense. The second way this can be used is if the character has not moved in the round and is in terrain whose difficulty does not exceed moderate, may, as a reaction move up to 1/2 their move and shield another character. And again, this is considered a move action, which means that there would be, the character can use, again, it breaks up into two different things. The character can use up any remaining actions for this, or have the reaction be an extra action accepting the -1D map. And again, it's considered a move action, and the player may not dodge for the rest of the round. That's kind of what I got.
I think this is great, and it's something that needed to be added to the rules. People are going to see this as a optional type of thing, and yeah, of course it is, seeing as we're the ones trying to bring life back into it. But this is great for those guys who just want to, play real hero. How would you put that? I'm not sure. A bodyguard type character would
Oh,
like
excellent. That. Yeah, definitely. Or someone that definitely has like a connection to another character, very strong, maybe familial, maybe relational or family, something along those lines. The only reason I came up with the mechanic was it's really just a different version of two different rules slapped together, the movement rules, and, it's movement rules, reaction rules, and cover modifiers, all rolled into one, and presented in a mechanic that makes sense, something that you don't have to look at three different areas and come up with an idea. And it allows people to do heroic stuff. Take a bullet for a friend. If one of the party members is just getting pegged and someone stands up there, ending their movement, trying to shield them, pulling their blasters out, shooting at the bad guys while trying to, offer up protection. I mean, it just opens up a lot of narrative to do some cool heroic things.
One of the things that you noted here was how would this work if you had a squirming enemy, dead body, or an item for a meat shield. Okay, and this is something for you guys to answer us back on. At SWD6 Podcast on Twitter, shooting Womp Rats. That's shooting as in SHOOTING, Womp, WOMP, Rats, one word, at Gmail. How would I think this would work if I had a squirming enemy? Pose strength rolls.
Yep, that's the first thing. But I guess for me, I was thinking more along the lines of if they have an object or a person or something along those lines. If you had someone that was trying to squirm away from you, that what I would do is I would just go back to the straight cover rules. Like you said, use a opposing strength roll to make sure that you can keep the person where you want them. Mm-hmm. But again, I'd go back to their, how much cover does it offer? Give that as a modifier. Give it the range to either hit that person or the person behind them. I think that what I would do is I would use whatever the object's strength, also known as protection for cover, plus armor value, as the opposed strength checks, and then whatever the damage is over and above that, you go against the table in the same section for cover, reduce the amount of damage that the incoming weapon is going to do. But
another thing that crossed my mind here, too, is blaster bolt penetration. We have never worked on a mechanic for blaster bolt penetration. If you're holding a meat shield and they get hit with a blaster, Where does the bolt go?
Mm-hmm.
That's something I want to work out probably over the week.
Yeah, I kind of came up with an idea, a working mechanic that's still in the process. Typically what happens in the cover rules is that the harder the cover is hit, the more damage it takes, the more damage gets around it to the person behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, that would seem to be the inverse of that would seem to be true if you had a meat shield in front of you. The less damage they take, the less successful they were at blocking the damage, therefore more got through. I don't know, I'm kicking that around. Anybody who's interested in that, I do believe that's in the revised expanded. I do believe the cover modifiers are on page 93, 94. Yep, they sure are. And then there's the inverse table, or the table for protection, reduces weapon damage will be in the second column, top of it. Let us know what you guys think.
Okay, Don worked out a new mechanic concerning med packs. They require a certain amount of time to work on the body depending upon how badly wounded the character is. Additional uses of the med pack are allowed after this time has elapsed. Additional uses of a med pack are dangerous, and no more than 4 med packs may be used on the character in a 24-hour period. That's straight out of rules as written.
Well, actually, hold on. You can actually use as many health packs as you want.
Really?
Yes, I know. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, that does need some nerfing.
Yep, the rules as written, you can use any number of health packs as you want in a single period. The only deficit is that the skill check goes up 1 level per one after the first. So you could, if a person had a high enough first aid skill, take a person from mortal to fully healed with 4 med packs, 5 med packs, I think.
And more than likely, if you've got a min-maxing character, they'll do that. They won't even buy a blaster with their starting equipment.
Well, not only that, it also seemed to be a bit silly that you could be able to do that. The idea that I came up with was that it took a certain amount of time, much faster, but a certain amount of time, and I based these off from the max times that it took to be in a back to tank to heal. For example, a person that was going into a back to tank would roll a D6 or a 1D for the number of hours they'd have to be immersed. Well, using a med pack, I figured it probably wasn't nearly as effective. I just took the maximum value and said, okay, fine. It takes 6 hours for the body to heal itself. I did the same thing with incapacitated. Incapacitated, I think it was a 4 die in a back to tank, so I just made it 24 using a med pack. Mortally wounded was a D6 days, so I just made it 6 days in between uses. The body can only do so much, even with fantastic technology. I don't know. I liked it, Daniel. It's something I'd definitely like to see. But, I also understand that it's not, you're playing a heroic, pulpy game. And so, the idea of waiting for your character to get better, I don't know. I can go either way with it. I guess if somebody wants more crunch, this is the way to go.
Yeah. I still like it, though. I don't want to see people abuse the system like they do, and that's why we come up with ideas like this.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other side of it is that you could explain away a person being mortally wounded using 4 health kits, med packs to heal, with using 4, and explain it away as, well, he took multiple hits, they weren't nearly as bad as what we thought, he was suffering a lot from shock, stress, and stuff like that. And then, after the fight is over and done with, you're going to explain it away that way. But I still think there should be there's a certain amount of time required to use skills. I don't understand why they didn't put some type of time in there for healing. It's instantaneous, and then boom, you can use another. It doesn't make sense to have no time to use a med pack, but for a back to tank, you do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do have an EMT background, I also threw in something called a crash kit. Now, a crash kit is just a more advanced version of a med pack. Basically, it comes with specialized equipment and drugs. It is expensive, and unless you're in the medical field, it's hard to stock. Now, it requires either a first aid 5D plus 1 or medicine 3D to use effectively, or it just acts like a med pack. Now, if used by a professional, the task difficulties are lowered by 1 rank, so a difficult to moderate, moderate to easy, but never any lower than easy. Just an idea.
One that I would definitely go with.
There you go. Well, also keep in mind, I mean, Crash Kit is quite a bit bigger. You know, think about the stuff that they have on an ambulance. We used to carry what was called a Crash Kit, and it was about 2 to 3 times bigger than a toolbox. And we cracked open the top, and it had breath masks, and it had, you know, all kinds of stuff. You had gloves and a one-way valve breather mask, and, you know, forced ventilation equipment, and all that kind of stuff in there. So, I mean, it's like a little mini triage thing. It's not like you pop it open and it's got, you know, aspirin and smelling salts and, you know, Band-Aids and gauze and, you know, triple antibiotic ointment and stuff like that.
All right. Now, here we go with a subject that's, if any of you follow the Ranker Pit, is sort of a sore subject with Don, specializations.
They suck! I hate them. I don't hate them. The problem is that Star Wars is already a system that can be open to abuse. And for me, specializations, especially when you tack on some of the absolutely ludicrous bonuses that some of the species can have, just quickly break the game down. And to be quite honest, getting back into the game the last couple of months, running 3 to 5 games a week, I'm rapidly remembering some of the pitfalls, especially when people start getting skills in the 60 and 70 range, how the game rapidly starts breaking down. Not with all skills, but I mean, there are some skills that just do not lend them very well. But anyway, back to specializations after character creation. Okay, and this is just a suggestion that I have, and I have tried to stick to the rules in the book as much as possible. I don't want to add more stuff if I don't need to. So let's start off with, first of all, a specialization represents previously untapped natural ability or concentrated effort and study. Now, when choosing a specialization, the player must choose a narrow focus of study or make and model of equipment. This is right out of Revised Expanded page 28. Characters can learn new specializations by paying twice the amount of character points to advance a skill 1 pip above the default attribute skill. What happens is once they've got that, then you go ahead and add a 1d to the specialization skill, again, per page 28. I decided to go ahead and make the cost double for the very initial buying of the specialization, just because, well, it is a specialization. It should be special. It shouldn't just be easy. I mean, if you could go up and spend 3 character points, get a 1D bonus right off the bat, and there'll be other people that argue, well, it is in a narrow area. Well, again, it depends on how narrow that focus is. The character must spend time training for this. Now, if the character has a teacher, the training time is 1 day for every character point spent to improve the skill. If the character doesn't have a teacher and is trying to learn this on his own, the training time is 2 days for every character point spent to improve the skill. That's per page 34. Now, training time can be stopped and picked up again at a later time without consequence. That's on page 34 as well. And, of course, characters can reduce their training time by spending 1 additional character point per day cut from the training time. Again, there's a minimum training time is always 1 day, and that, again, is on page 34. Now, again, when someone is looking to improve a specialization, the rules don't change. If they're going to improve after the initial specialization, it is still 1/2 rounded up. All right. Again, there is the benefit that up to 5 character points can be spent to improve a specialization skill roll using character points during the game. Something I've been thinking about is not doubling the character point cost, but make the training 1 week with a teacher, 2 weeks without a teacher per character point spent.
That would work to me because it simulates more along the lines of you having to take the time to figure it out.
Well, I kind of like it this way too because it's sort of a nice middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
You are not changing any of the costs for getting a skill in the game. That's the first thing. So you haven't changed anything mechanically there. Now, as for the amount of time training, a lot of that is just brushed over. I mean, a lot of that, because it's something you can start and stop, you can put it over a couple of different adventures. You can role play it out. It can be narrated. It's just something in my mind just kind of makes it so that the player understands they didn't just come back from an adventure, sit down, pull out a book, and all of a sudden they get a +1D to flying X-Wings because they read a manual. I think that's just silly.
This ain't the Matrix.
It ain't the Matrix, baby. Upload me, tank. Yeah, I don't think so. Hey, something else I noticed this week was about advanced skills. While I was looking at specializations, did you know that advanced skills, when a character purchases as an advanced skill, it begins at 1D?
Yeah, I remember reading that.
I don't think anybody does that, though, but if you look at page 28, it does say advanced skills. When a character purchases an advanced skill, just like I said, it begins at 1D. And advanced skills do not begin at the same level as the corresponding attribute. And this is in the section of character creation. All right, so there's none. Someone might say, well, this is like after character creation. No. This is during character creation. On page 35, again under advanced skills, after character creation, it says pretty much the same thing. A character may learn an advanced skill if he has the prerequisite skill and pays the character point cost to learn the skill at 1D. So there you go, you advanced skill monkeys.
And, a lot of people tend to assume that when you get an advanced skill, it's just the same, but it's not.
Nope, it isn't. And I tell you, and that kind of changes things for me in my game. I've actually decided to keep brawling just a basic brawling skill. And then instead of having a specialization, I've allowed an advanced skill called martial arts, which again does the same thing as what brawling did before. It can cause, wounding and killing damage, and you get special moves out of rules of engagement. You have to have a prerequisite in brawling, and you start out at 1D and work your way up.
Now, didn't we discuss in a previous episode making martial arts an advanced skill?
We might have, but I think I was had a head of steam over doing it a different way. I don't have the answer every week. I have all kinds of different ideas. It's up to other people to decide what they want to use and what they don't want to. I'm an idea man. That's what I am.
Now it's time for the Jedi Library, where we go and search out that one book and talk about it. In this case, what is our favorite or most memorable West End Games D6 adventure? My favorite adventure, believe it or not, I have actually never played or run any of the official West End Games adventures. I've got a few of them. But I've never run any of them.
That's right, folks. He's got some.
I like not outer space, but other space.
Oh, there's two of those. Other Space 1 and
Outer Space 2. Yeah, and I like it because it adds in a whole new level, and you get the whole sense of alternate dimensions thing going.
I think mine, and this is sort of a love-hate for me, is Battle for the Golden Sun. The reason that it has such a fond memory for me is I believe it was the first adventure I bought. And it's an old first edition adventure, and it's kind of cool because it had some Force stuff going on in it. It had underground, water stormtroopers. It had an underwater ad. It had an Imperial base. There was a new alien race that was involved, which were basically like seals of arms. I mean, it was really cheesy. The problem is that there are a number of fundamental problems with the layout and progression of the adventure. It is hard to follow at times. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's a lot of cheese. But again, being your first adventure, being a young kid, I mean, I think I got that in like 80 something. I mean, I think I was still in high school. I was like maybe even a freshman. And at that time, I mean, you only read half the rules anyway. Mm-hmm. And you only read like headers. You never read the entire adventure section. Mm-hmm. And you just have a good time. But as an adult, I've gone back and I've read it and went, oh my God, this is really bad. But, you just remember it fondly as a kid, just having so much fun with it. So, I mean, I guess that's my pick. Battle for the Golden Sun.
So, Battle for the Golden Sun, and then Other Space and Other Space 2 for me.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the part of the show where we go and discuss certain things that have happened within the community. We call them shatter points.
Dun, dun, dun.
First off is Don calls me up Monday and he says, I had a horrible game Sunday night.
I did. Let me preface this real quick. I'm trying to get another group together for Thursday nights. And so I've been doing the thing of dealing with people all week long. We had a character generation get together Thursday evening. But from Wednesday on, I've been dealing with passive aggressive individuals, people that want to play stupid concepts, people that are like, I really want to play the game, but I don't know anything of the game. Can you teach me? Which, I don't have a problem with that, but at least read the 6-page quick start that I made. And I'm having people that aren't even taking the time to do that. And my opinion is kind of like, okay, look, if you can't meet me halfway, if you can't show me a little bit of respect and at least read 6 freaking pages, then maybe my game's not your bag. But anyway, I digress. I've been dealing with this for about 4 days. So my Sunday game comes around and I'm just feeling just emotionally beat. My energy level is really low. I'm just like, I'm just not feeling it. And we're getting ready to start a new adventure. I present them the idea to my players in my Sunday game. And I go, okay, Rebel, Alliance Intelligence, blah, blah, this. You got to go off and do this. And they're like, okay, well, what irritated me was that they immediately went to metamechanics. Okay, we're going to need someone to go off and do the transponder. We're going to need a ship. We're going to need uniforms. We're going to need to forge papers. Can somebody at the Rebel base give us these kind of things? We're going to need to insert it into the Imperial database so that, they know that we've got orders and stuff like that. And I don't know why, but I do. I'd been frustrated throughout the week. I was low energy. And I said to my player, so basically, let me make sure I understand this. You guys are supposed to be Star Wars heroes. And essentially what you want to do is make a couple of dice, get on your ship, fly to the place that you're supposed to do, just walk right in the front door, hand them your papers, they'll escort you to the room where you need to get your papers, they'll hand you 3 boxes, and you'll walk back out, get on your ship, and head back to the Rebel base, and the adventure is done. I said, does that sound like fun? Is that what you want to do? No, that's not what we're going to do. That's not what we're talking about. And I was like, all right, fine. I'll give everybody the benefit of the doubt. I'm in a grumpy mood. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll just see where my characters take it. Now, the game started at about 6:20, 6:30. We got a bit of a late start because I had some family dinner stuff going on. I was done at 7:45, an hour and 15 minutes later. And the reason for it is because even though they said, no, we're not going to do that, when I allowed them the opportunity to do it, they did it. They took the easiest possible metamechanic way out, and in fact, they tried to do the exact same thing to get into an area that they did in the last 2 adventures. So I was a bit assed up. I was not a happy camper, and I let them know that. And I got to thinking about it later. I was like, okay, yeah, I was at a low energy level and stuff like that. But I guess it made me think about the contract, in quotation marks, between the game master and his players. And that contract has many levels to it. The first contract is the GM to the players. And what does the GM do? The GM presents a story that falls within their skill area and what they want to do, and uses the rules in an impartial way to tell a fun story. Now, the game master has to come with a certain energy level and a certain enthusiasm. The players, in turn, have this contract with the game master and need to do something other than just show up and throw dice or regurgitate the same idea of how to get into a place over and over again. So that was the thing I think I was irritated with. I as a game master, feed on the energy and the enthusiasm of my players. And if all they're going to do is metamechanic, if they're not going to think in a heroic way, if they're not going to be excited, talking in the first person, throwing out an accent, adding something to the narrative, pulling something out of their background, if all they're going to do is sit down and figure out how to systematically attain their goal, it's not role-playing to me and it's not fun. And so I would encourage people when they're thinking about these kind of situations, don't think so much in metamechanics. Think in heroic ideas. What would be fun?
The thing we want to talk about here, and this is something we brought up in a couple of episodes ago, was role-playing versus role-playing. And these modern systems these days work so hard on rolling dice that there's no role-playing. And today's role-player is starting to follow that trend. I was looking for group board over on Reddit, and what I got was a GM looking for players, and he said, I need a tank. I need a DPS. And I stopped and I said, why are you using World of Warcraft terms?
Yeah, why are you using MMO terms?
Right. That's one of my pet peeves right there. To me, role-playing is not a computer game.
Right. And not only that, it's one of those things where you need to get past the meta mechanics of something and realize that you're trying to do cool things. You're supposed to be heroic. It's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be pulpish. And I guess that's what I'm trying to get my players to understand. Don't sit there and, like if somebody needs to open the door, don't everybody sit around the table and go, oh, I've got security 3D plus 2. Well, I've got tech 2D plus 2. Well, I've got security 5. Okay, well, so-and-so will make the roll. No, absolutely grates on me. Play within your characters. Who would take the lead on that? Is there a character that leaps before they look? Would that person, just like push his way to the beginning and try to unlock that door, even if he's not the one that has the optimal skill for it? Again, role play. Don't meta mechanic it out. I mean, if that will suck the energy out of any role playing group faster than anything, in my mind. And that is exactly what happened Sunday night. And also, it made for a really not very fun adventure that didn't take very long at all. And I think that was the point I was trying to make to my players when I was like, all right, there you go. Hour and 15 minutes, man. We're done. Any questions? All right, game's posted for next week. If you're interested, post it up. I'm out. Peace out, boys.
The guys that I was playing with when I was running my last campaigns, they were good about, it wasn't so much metagaming as much as it was if they were getting together for a plan, they would actually sit down and they've remarked to me more than once, this is turning into a Shadowrun episode. Because they're making plans and they're doing it in character. Especially when the guy who was playing my overpowered Wookiee would use his soundboard Wookiee speak, and that was great.
That's something Roll20 definitely needs, or there needs to be a applet for Hangouts where you can put a soundboard up and load your own sounds.
Okay. A good sentence or two with a hint or clue can dramatically change the feel of your game session and add clarity and fun for everyone.
Yep, that actually comes straight out of my Monday night group. I had run the adventure the previous week for my Sunday group, and I ran the same adventure a week later for my Monday. And my Monday group are really, really good. But the first half of the adventure, they just seemed to really flounder a lot. And it was remarked to me that it felt more like a sandbox adventure that they had to kind of figure out, and they didn't feel like they had a lot of clues. This continued when we started up the second session, and I ended up adding some really blatant clues for them to follow, and they got back on track. And when I asked everybody afterwards and said, look, it just seemed like people were floundering, that you guys were just, pursuing one idea. And they were like, yeah. And they were like, well, we really didn't know what we were supposed to do. What were we supposed to do? And I said, well, this was the idea that I had that I thought you guys were going to pursue. Well, we never even thought of that. And then I got to thinking about it. You know what? At the very beginning, during the synopsis where they're getting their mission briefing or in the crawl at the beginning of my adventures, if I just added in one or two sentences, throwing them a hook or something along those lines would have dramatically changed their direction and would have dramatically changed the feel and tone of the game. It would have given them a direction to pursue. And so I guess that's the thing I would definitely share with other game masters out there. Think real carefully about the synopsis, the what you give your characters at the beginning, and make sure that you give them some type of clue to help them get on track. Tell you what, it's really helpful.
I agree. The adventures that I create every once in a while, and you'll know it when your players get stuck because
you can feel it.
They have to start getting quiet.
Or even better, well, with my group on Monday, what was happening was they were pursuing a completely illogical, it made no sense at all, the direction that they were going. When we had our discussion afterwards, out of game discussion, we decided, this is our stopping point. Let's discuss what had taken place tonight. It made sense up to a point for them with the information they have. Now, here's the thing the Game Master has to realize. The Game Master he has all of the information about the adventure in front of him. And he has to keep reminding himself that his players do not have access to all of that information. You know, the game master understands the nuance of a certain encounter, or perhaps a certain line of questioning that should have been pursued. He gets that because he has the entire adventure in front of him. Players don't. Sometimes they need to have a hint dropped. And I'm not saying, you know, you beat them with the hint stick. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is just, you know, logically present it, and just remember that they are playing the game, trying to figure out the adventure from an incomplete list of information, unlike yourself. You just need to keep that in mind.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Shooting Womp Rats. Once again, for those of you who want to give us a little help, make your submissions, that sort of thing, we can be reached at SWD6 Podcast on Twitter, Shooting Womp Rats, all one word, at gmail.com. And, of course, we have our G Plus community. We frequent the Star Wars D6 community on Facebook, as well as the D6 Holocrons community.
Yep, and Ranker Pit and all those other
Ranker
things.
Pit. Shooting
and any other cool place that we can find out about.
One last note before we close it up. We are having a one-page ad in the latest edition of D6 Magazine. All one, or, you know, D6 Magazine, Google it. It's off the Wicked North Games homepage, and it's being designed by Mojo Mo of the Ranker Pit. Now, both Don and I have looked at the image, how it's going to appear on our website. I am pleasantly amazed.
I was very surprised by the image, and also Adam sent me some preliminary art that he's been kicking around for the the Droids animated series source book that we're still continuing to work on. I'm just in awe of the level of talent of some of the people we have in the community for doing this stuff. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you both so much for helping us out when we've needed it.
Yep. But you know what? If you come over, you're still just getting hamburgers and macaroni and cheese. I'm not pulling out a steak for you.
So on behalf of Shooting Womp Rats, I'm Daniel.
I'm done.
May the Force be with you.
Have a great weekend, guys. Everybody be safe. Be good to your family. Bye-bye.